The meeting on Monday between Donald Trump, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and basically every leader of a major European power wasn't super newsy. They didn't really talk a lot about what happened in it. There were sort of vague assertions that the U.S. had agreed to security guarantees for Ukraine going forward, but there wasn't a lot of there. It seemed like, as somebody put it, a meeting about having another meeting, which, by the way, when I used to work in mainstream media, were the meetings I hated the most. We're meeting to talk about a meeting we're going to have in the future. Anyway, there was one moment, though, that actually happened before the meeting started at the White House, and which was not supposed to be captured by the microphones, but was a hot mic moment that I actually think is really revealing about Donald Trump, about his approach to the presidency, how he views himself, both in this situation and trying to negotiate a peace between Russia and Ukraine, but also more broadly. So let me read it to you. So as the press is about to come in for a photo op, which I'm sure you've seen, of all the leaders sort of standing next to one another, Trump is caught on a hot mic. And it's not clear who of the leaders he's telling this to, but he's talking about Putin. And he says this: I think he, Putin, wants to make a deal for me. Do you understand that? As crazy as it sounds. So again, what Trump says, talking about Vladimir Putin, is, I think he wants to make a deal for me. Do you understand that? As crazy as it sounds. So before I go any further, I want to explain why I think that's important and what it tells us about Trump, but I also want to make a pitch to you, which is, I hope you become a subscriber to this channel. I am making 2 videos every single day. I have a live stream I do every Friday. I've got a membership tier called the Diamond Club, where you get even more content. And the reason that I want you to be a member, whether it's free or paid or whatever, is because I'm doing 2 things that I think are important. I am independent. I'm independent from legacy media, corporate media. I'm also independent from the 2 political parties. The other thing I will always be is authentic. I will tell you what I believe is going on in politics based on my decades of reporting and analyzing it and the sources I talk to. I will never tell you what you want to hear just so you become a subscriber. I'm not interested in fan service. I'm interested in bringing you independent, authentic political analysis. We've got over 115,000 subscribers. I hope you join us. Okay, so just to reset, Donald Trump tells one of these leaders who's gathered at the White House in a hot mic moment about Vladimir Putin, I think he wants to make a deal for me. Do you understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Now, why is that important? I think it's important for a bunch of reasons. Let's talk about sort of the near-term Russia and Ukraine, and then the broader world of Trump's presidency. So, look, Vladimir Putin is a former KGB agent. If you think that goes away, you're got another thing coming. Vladimir Putin, I think, has demonstrated his ability to manipulate Donald Trump in the past. I would argue, look, this summit they had last Friday in Anchorage, Alaska, Putin said publicly in the press conference, they didn't take questions. In the meeting with reporters afterward, he said, Donald Trump often says that if he had won in the 2020 election, I wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. And he's right about that. Now, again, that seems to me unlikely, but Putin is saying that publicly. But privately, we know before Putin said that, in the meeting just with Trump, as well as Marco Rubio and a few other dignitaries, that Putin said that Trump won the 2020 election, and that any election that is in which you are allowed to vote by mail is fraudulent. Okay. Trump subsequently repeated that to Sean Hannity in an interview right after the summit. And he, on Monday, called for voting by mail to be banned in the United States. If you think that Vladimir Putin told Donald Trump about the 2020 election being stolen and vote by mail, and that he wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if Trump had been president, if you think that those are just honest assessments by Vladimir Putin of a situation, you don't know Vladimir Putin. He is telling Trump those things. Who knows if he actually believes it? I don't know that Putin believes much of anything, but he is telling Trump those things because he knows it will endear him to Trump. He knows that if you stroke Trump, Trump responds, that Trump likes to be told he's right. He likes to be affirmed. He likes when people say nice things about him, and that makes him more willing to do business with them. That's what Vladimir Putin is doing here. So it is a remarkable thing that Donald Trump seems to believe. As he said, again, this wasn't meant for public consumption. This was a hot mic moment, which I think really does suggest he actually believes this. He seems to think that Vladimir Putin wants to do a deal to end the Russia-Ukraine war for Donald Trump. And I think he thinks that because he believes that Putin really likes him, that Putin looks up to him, that Putin sees him as a peer. And the reason Trump thinks that is because Putin is spending time doing that, endearing himself, convincing Trump that he's not a bad actor, that he's not a bad person, the head of a country, a war criminal, that he's actually a good dude. So that's a huge swing and a miss in my mind by Donald Trump when reading what Vladimir Putin actually thinks and what he's motivated by in this negotiation about whether to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, more broadly, what does that statement tell us? Again, what does this tell us about Trump beyond just Russia and Putin? I think he wants to make a deal for me. Do you understand that, as crazy as it sounds? I think what it tells us that Donald Trump, and this is not just true from this one quote, it's true from sort of how he has conducted his whole life. Donald Trump believes himself to be uniquely compelling, uniquely persuasive, uniquely manipulative, uniquely appealing to people, whether that is in the private sector, the business world, whether it is with voters, or whether it is in the diplomatic world with people like Kim Jong-un, with China's President Xi, with Vladimir Putin, and with our allies. He has this belief that he is preternaturally gifted at getting people to do what he wants because he is so winning. He is so endearing. He is so tough. He is so convincing. And I think that's really coming through in that quote too, that Trump has such a regard for himself that he either doesn't know why he should be concerned that Putin is telling him everything he wants to hear, and Putin is doing it, as I said, to curry favor with Trump, or he thinks that Putin means every word of it, that Putin actually does want to do a deal for Trump because he wants Trump to win the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants Trump to be successful. I mean, I will note Russia did work in the 2016 election to try to elect Donald Trump. Not saying it swayed votes, but they did. He believes all that. And I think, honest, if you gave him a lie detector test, he would believe it. Again, this was a hot mic moment. This was not a moment meant for public consumption. Trump was unaware that what he was saying would be picked up. He thought he was just confiding in another leader, and a microphone wound up picking it up. And so I think that there's real truth in that. That is how he sees himself. Now, part of this is, look, you don't get elected president unless you have a high regard for yourself. You don't say, you know what, out of the 335 million people we have in the US, I'm uniquely positioned to represent all of them. It's by nature a hugely egotistical decision to run for president and think you can do that job. But I do think that Trump's self-regard, his lack of introspection, is a thing that can be used against him when it comes to cutting deals, when it comes to diplomacy. And I think you're seeing that with Putin. Putin is not a good actor. Putin is a bad actor. He is trying to seize a sovereign nation in Ukraine, period. Whether or not he has views on vote by mail in the United States, I am very skeptical of, but he is working to manipulate Donald Trump to get what he wants. That Donald Trump seems to think that Vladimir Putin wants to end the war between Ukraine and Russia for him and him alone, is an act of massive egotism, and I think a direct misread of Putin. And by the way, provides a blueprint for foreign leaders going forward about how you get what you want from Donald Trump. All right, that's it for me today. As I said before, I hope you subscribe. Independent and authentic. I promise you those two things with everything I say and do. I also hope you like and comment on this video. That helps me grow my following among people who aren't subscribers. Last thing, if you're at church or your bowling league or PTA meeting or wherever you are, I know school's getting back in session. Do me a favor, tell somebody about what I'm doing here and why you think it's important and why they should subscribe. I very much appreciate it. Thank you all for your support, and take care.